stay cool.
There you go. Jay Fallon, thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope. So, it's a little bit of news to get through when it comes to Queensland Police Service. A little interesting, a little interesting. Tell you what, let's check it out. Hundreds of former and current police officers and staff members have launched a class action lawsuit against the state government and the Queensland Police Service over its COVID-19 vaccine mandates. First off, where's my invite? Where's my invite? Come on. The lawsuit, filed in the Supreme Court in Brisbane today, is being funded by billionaire Clive Palmer. It comes after the Queensland Supreme Court ruled that COVID-19 mandates breached the human rights laws of some frontline workers. Well, golly gee. In his written decision in February, Justice Glenn Martin ruled the directives breached Section 58 of the Human Rights Act, which stated that all public service, employees must give proper consideration to human rights before making a decision, and that they must act and make decisions that are compatible with human rights. They didn't do that. I know that because they gave me the letter saying, we know that this doesn't is not compatible with human rights because blah blah blah. This is what it says, and then the very next page it says you go over and say, well, there you go. I don't have to do it, and then it goes over and says, however, we're going to do it regardless. I'm like, oh, cool. Goes on. However, Justice Martin did not find mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations were contrary to the HRA, Human Rights Action, but that the directions were issued unlawfully. Mr. Palmer had also confirmed he funded that legal action at the time, which he said cost about 2 to 3 million. It's not known how much supporting this lawsuit has cost the mining magnate. Solicitor Justin Sibley, who was leading the class action, said the COVID vaccine mandate were coercive and limited officers' human rights. What we're saying is that the coercive mandates were put in by the Commissioner of Police, that name that I do not like to speak, that name that sends a permanent shiver down my spine. Anyway, which created terrible duress and influence on the police officers and staff members to try and coerce them into being vaccinated and has caused damage to them as a result. He said that there were three groups within the class action, spearheaded by three plaintiffs. One group complied with vaccine mandates. The second sought medical exemptions but were denied and were then vaccinated. And the third group did not get vaccinated and were suspended. It was me, or terminated. I was suspended, stood down a year later. Like, it's only so long you can go without getting paid. Um, not, I mean, anyway. Mr. Sibley said some of those who did not get vaccinated went without pay for more than 2 years and have suffered as a result. What will be alleged in the Clark's action is that name that I do not dare to speak, KC, the one that sends a shiver down my spine, not only failed to properly consider human rights, but she also unreasonably limited those human rights, Mr. Sibley said. Mr. Sibley, if we ever meet in the street, let me buy you a drink. Former Specialist Police Officer and Senior Constable Luke Jones, don't know him but like to meet him, said he was suspended without pay from his job in Cairns in 2021. I got a feeling he might be cert, and was sacked earlier this year for refusing to be vaccinated. Good on you, Jonesy. Luke Jones. Mr. Jones said he had lost more than 400 grand in wages and super, but the emotional toll had been the hardest. The job role that I was in was going after some of the most notorious, dangerous people on the street, and that's where I felt I could make the biggest impact. It's my dream job. This is exactly how I felt. It was my dream job. I was at the Triple C watching. Anyway, yeah, get off, Jason. Dream job, worked very hard, and to have that stripped away from me so suddenly out of nowhere, I struggled with identity after that for a long time because I didn't know who I was or what I wanted to do. I'd said like almost exactly that to my wife just the other. We were talking about this like just a week ago. I'd said to her, she said a few things to me. I said, look, I know I've struggled with work since getting out of the police. The problem is I loved what I did. Loved it. It was like the only thing in that I've done where I'm like this. I did hardly ever felt like I was working, doing, and it wasn't just because I was a police officer, but doing the surveillance work that I did. I loved it. And I felt like I was actually doing something for the community, helping the community, getting rid of drug dealers, corrupt politicians. It was, anyway, got to settle myself down. Responding to the news that the class action had been filed, Premier, the great eminent doctor, Stephen Miles, said the vaccine mandate was incredibly important at the time. It's what allowed us to reach the point where we could stop doing the lockdowns. No, no, it's not. Just because you made it all up, lad. When we could get the borders open. Okay. Obviously, those individuals have their own legal right and they're welcome to pursue them. In a statement, the Queensland Police Service said it couldn't comment on current legal proceedings because that would go against their open and transparent policy to actually comment on something, but said it recognised members. It recognised them. Yeah, okay. Who complied with the former commissioner's directions to support the safety of the Queensland community. The court was very clear that this finding did not mean the directions were invalid. The court also found that, on a proper consideration of human rights, the requirement to be vaccinated was reasonable in the context of a global pandemic. A global pandemic that was released upon us on purpose by the Chinese government, by China. As such, the QPS maintains it was appropriate for those members of the service to be vaccinated. Some employees who were suspended for non-compliance with the directions have returned to work following the vaccine for the revocation, sorry, of their suspensions. Oh, draining, draining. Can't believe I have to. Anyway, that's one story. Let's get straight into the next one. Oh. Unfortunately, this also deals with that name that I do not like to speak. Getting a shiver down my spine. Queensland Police Service accused of blocking release of damaging reports about service delivery program according to internal email. This is extremely interesting, people. Extremely interesting. There she is, KC herself. Queensland's former police commissioner has been accused of striking a deal with the state's powerful police union. No joke. And Lever's got what he wanted. He's out. He's the new border czar. Anyway, so they've struck a deal with the state's powerful police union not to release damaging reports they commissioned in the belief the service did not need more bad press. No joke, because you and old Mark Ryan, who hopefully is going to lose his job, uh, well, it's almost midnight, but hopefully tomorrow we'll see Mark Ryan booted out on his tush. And then we'll say, that's all right. We can always get another one. Anyway, losing track here. They commissioned in the belief. Here you go. The ABC understands the Queensland Police Service, QPS, and union commissioned reviews into the effectiveness of the Service Delivery Program, SDP pilot, earlier known as the SDRP. The 25.9 million. That's right. Any police officers out there listening to this? 25.9 million. You know when you do overtime and then your sergeant, your duty sergeant comes in and starts questioning you on the overtime, or senior sergeant or the OIC, you get an email from the inspector, someone questioning you about the overtime that you had to do. 25.9 million they spent on this. Yeah. So this was supposed to transform the service. It was supposed to. And improve efficiency, but was fiercely criticised by the union and eventually abandoned in 2023. Consultants engaged by the union reviewed the program in the Moreton district, while a 180,000 Ernst and Young review. Hey, I would have reviewed it for a lazy 170,000. That was commissioned by QPS, assessed the pilots in both the Moreton and Logan districts. An internal email written last year by a senior officer of the SDP claims the reports into the program were buried to protect the service's image. Who would have thought it? In the email, the officer claims that top union officials said during a meeting there was a commitment between the commissioner, the one whose name I don't like to speak. There was a commitment between her and the union, Ian Lever's snake, not to release either report into the SDP. Prize still in there, but he would have been part of this. Bet your bottom dollar. Okay, so they've made a commitment between them, commissioner, ex-commissioner, and union, not to release either report due to the damaging nature of both reports, and the service doesn't need any further bad press. Golly gee, I, Jay Fallon, the slippery slope, and part of that bad press that you've been receiving. KC, but former police commissioner KC denied striking a deal with the police union to bury the reports. She denied it. In a statement, Ms. Carroll said the SDP Sierra Delta Papa was launched during arguably one of the hardest and most difficult periods of time in QPS history due to a global pandemic and an unprecedented increase in calls to service. Oh, golly gee. As commissioner, it was my job to listen to the union and their concerns made by their members. These concerns aligned to our own findings from our own inquiries and therefore did weigh into my decision about the program ending. We were in the trenches. Several officers involved with the SDP told the ABC they faced an intensely hostile environment in the Moreton district from those resistant to change from the outset. One officer said people would openly discuss their operational credentials and imply they were a pen pusher with no experience. Oh, golly gee. Someone discussed openly their operational credentials and had the gall to imply that you're a pen pusher? Oh, the humanity. Ooh. Another officer claimed they faced profanity. Really? Profanity in the Queensland Police Service? Are you serious? And verbal abuse. And were disappointed the results of the reviews were not released. I was flabbergasted and angry that the QPS and the union had made a deal not to release the findings of their reports, one officer said. The ABC understands that multiple officers had taken extended leave, aggrieved by their alleged treatment while working to implement the SDP. It was a boys' club, one of them said. You had to be one of them, or you were classed as the enemy, one officer said. Many of us felt we had been in the trenches in Moreton District and that we had really lost a battle. We also felt betrayed by the union. Betrayed by the union. Gee, I wonder what that feels like. Oh, sorry. I know I sound a little bitter, but I try not to be. Trolley Boy tells me all the time, don't be bitter, Jay. The problem is he's bitter too. So two bitter people telling each other, don't be bitter. Let's keep going. The officer said part of the pilot involved digging through the matters police were assigned to assess how they'd been managed. They said as part of the pilot, they uncovered many performance and cultural issues, and it was like opening Pandora's box. I couldn't unsee what I saw, the officer said. Last year, Ms. Carroll said she'd scrapped the project due to concerns about fatigued staff and the pressure of multiple reform agendas, including recommendations from the Domestic and Family Violence Inquiry. You know, all those recommendations that they still haven't implemented? This is a clown show. But the Queensland Audit Office later found abolishing the SDP was a lost opportunity and the program showed promising outcomes. Okay. One, one officer said they were denied closure. You were denied closure. And any correction or validation of their beliefs about the SDP because the reports by the QPS and union were not made public. It came as a shock when I heard that Commissioner Carroll, when I heard from Commissioner Carroll that the SDP would no longer continue. It was an absolute kick in the guts. It came as a shock, did it? That that Katarina Carroll didn't stand by you? That came as a shock. It came as a shock that she stabbed you in the back. Really? It came as a shock. I would have thought, okay, that you'd seen some of the things that had happened over the last, 3 years and 4 years, 3 to 4 years, and it wouldn't have come as a shock when you felt that knife getting plunged in, and then when you feel it twisting, you go, yeah, that feels about right. That feels exactly what I thought Katarina Carroll would feel like when she's stabbing me in the back. My thoughts at the service, I'm going to go on. My thoughts that the service would get better were absolutely annihilated. Look at that happy face, KC. Happy, happy face. Did I ever tell you that when I graduated, what do you call it? You have your you finish at the academy and you have a senior officer come through and they're supposed to walk out and you introduce them. She was actually my partner. She was the one who I had to walk out with and introduce her to the people. It's a bit of fanfare, bit of pomp and ceremony. She was that was the person, the senior officer I walked out with. It was Katarina Carroll. If I'd have known then what I knew now. Oh, oh. Ms. Carroll said the decision to end the SDP was not made lightly. Whatever. Uh, Queensland Audit Office clearly saw the benefits in SDP, similarly to me and others, and perhaps in a different operating environment, the program may have been fully implemented, she said. However, it was not possible during a period of significant demand increase, fatigue, workforce, and relentless reform, especially when I'd already screwed over a heap of officers anyway and had made things harder for everyone. I acknowledge some staff who worked on the project were bitterly disappointed the project did not continue in its original end-to-end form. I can understand that as they put their heart and soul into it. However, ultimately, it was the right decision to conclude the program in its original format. Look at this next little headline. QPS refuses to release report. That's because that's in line with their open and transparency policy. Don't release reports. How can you be open and transparent if you're going to start releasing reports? Come on, be real, ABC. So the ABC asked the QPS if it would release the report into the SDP, but it was told it was not possible. That's not possible. How can that be possible? We can't release a report. Mikey. And that a right to information application would have to be lodged. A QPS spokesperson said the review was not publicly released as it was intended as an internal health check. An internal health check. And, it's not like the Queensland public pay for the Queensland Police Service. It's not like all that money came out of the public purse. And how dare you ask for a copy of the report? I don't know who you think you are. So it was intended as an internal health check to establish strengths and weaknesses within the program. The QPS did not respond to questions about whether it struck a deal with the union to block the review. The spokesman said the report did not find adverse behaviour in the Moreton district during the pilot. However, the QPS acknowledged that this was not the key focus of the independent review. The spokesperson said the review found the modified service delivery model was sound and delivering many of the expected important benefits, including greater capability for QPS to keep victims and the community informed. You got to keep them informed when you want to keep them informed, as long as it's what you want. And increased visibility and transparency across the service delivery ecosystem. Do you think they see the irony in that? We've got a greater capability for increased visibility and transparency. But when you ask us to see the report, nah, can't give you that. There's only so much transparency we can allow. It also found it provided better oversight of risk, ability to recognize true frontline demand. But they said the project and review also unearthed important and systemic issues. I'd say those systemic issues are probably from, all the upper echelon of officers. There's so many that just need to go. They need to cull. Going on, which the QPS continues to focus its efforts on, such as organizational wide rostering, capability, and service demand. The ABC also contacted the Queensland Police Union for comment, but did not receive a response. Shaney Pryor didn't want to answer the phone. He's like, "Yep, ABC, no way." An internal email from a top union official to a high-ranking QPS officer from March 2021 crikey, called for an immediate pause of the SDP trial. In the email seen by the ABC, the union official raised concerns about the de-skilling of investigators, fatigue management, and failure of the implementation team to genuinely engage with staff. Concerns about de-skilling. The terms that we repeatedly heard from union members were that the implementation team had drunk the Kool-Aid, and anyone who raised an issue was then a blocker. A separate email written by the officer involved with the SDPs to these colleagues last year notes the team's concerns with public commentary by the union. The email said in a meeting with union officials, the officer pushed the fact that the team are aggrieved by the criticism of their work based on secret internal reports. Too much secrets, mate. Too many secrets. I pushed them on what they could do to address our concerns, and they want face-to-face meetings. Due to the difficulties associated with Teams meetings and the potential to record such meetings and leak to the press. Face-to-face meetings is all it's going to be. A little pat down before you walk into the room, a little wave the wand over, leave the phones in the little bag so no one can do anything. Golly gee, who would have thought? Can't do a Teams meeting. You might record it face-to-face. Going on, bad news is they stand by the comments for a variety of reasons, which includes feedback from the involved districts about our personal behaviours when engaged with frontline staff were poor. Oh, the SDP was recommended in a 2019 review by Neil Greenfield of GSA Management, blah, blah, blah. Officers who spoke with the ABC said they were proud of the SDP implementation team's work. It wasn't perfect, but it was a good start. Now we are left with a piecemeal QPS service delivery, at times good and at times bad, failing to provide a consistent and effective service delivery to the Queensland community. It's just, it's a farce. It's a farce. QPS, like I said, they got rid of Katarina. They got rid of Katarina hoping that they could, I think, just cover up the massive screw ups that were going on. But it's as much as I'd love to just blame everything on her and that clown, Mark Ryan, I'd love to just blame it on them too. Love to. But it's more than just them two. You know, she's got a circle of senior officers, the senior team who are giving her advice, who are helping her, guiding her, were helping her, were guiding her. So they need to be held accountable too. You know, and for Goals to just step in, you think he wasn't a part of all this? Come on. How about Wheeler? What's the go with him being stood down? I'd still love to know more about that too. You think he wasn't a part of that? Not that I've got no sympathy for that lad, but it's all just a joke. They need a straight up cull of the senior management at the Queensland Police Service. They really do. And what someone had sent me one of the meme, Katarina Carroll sitting at a desk, and she's got a little picture on her desk saying failure is always an option. That's about it. Failure was always an option for her. She blames everything else. We're going through a global pandemic. Let's forget about the facts that, instead of rallying the troops, instead of banding everyone together, coming together like a brotherhood, I'll just cause disenchantment and officers to feel disenfranchised with the service because I'll bring in my stupid mandates and make things oh so worse. And then I'll get on the media, me and clownface Mark Ryan, and just insult police even more, because we can just get new ones. Doesn't matter if you quit. We just get new ones. I'm not still bitter at all, but nothing surprises me with these clowns, and it's not changing with goals in there. He was just brought in as the cover up, just the band-aid, because they needed probably someone who looks like the polar opposite of what she was, but in actual fact, he's not really. They need sweeping changes in QPS. This is just pathetic. If anyone can explain this situation a little bit more, I'd love to know. What did they think they were going to be able to achieve with this SDP? It's all just, yet again, it makes the Queensland Police Service, look just farcical. And it just confirms my thoughts, my beliefs that we need sweeping changes across the board. We need major culling in the senior ranks of the Queensland Police Service straight after we have a change of government. That is my opinion. Hopefully, I know it's not going to be true. Hopefully, I don't have to speak that name that I do not like to speak because it sends a shiver down my spine. But unfortunately, I probably will have to. But this is all just my opinion. I'm Jay Fallon, former Queensland Police Service police officer. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
And say it isn't real, and please don't go away. Just give me one more day. What if I could turn back time? I'd make you smile again. And if I could unbreak your heart, and we could start again. What if I could turn back time? I'd make you smile again. And if I could unbreak your heart, and we could start again. We could start again. We could start again. We could start again.